What's going on, everybody? C4 here. We're back. I was literally getting ready to eat supper. Then Mr. Rappaport dropped the news that Giants, former Giants, maybe best player on the defense, but former Giants starting safety Landon Collins has signed a 6-year, $84 million deal with the Redskins. Now, is this just Madden in real life? Are the Redskins and like the Dolphins just gotta start overbidding on every intriguing free agent? Like, maybe I need to take an L for being overly critical of the Madden free agency bidding system, saying, oh, how come the Redskins always overbid? How come they always pay so much money for the free agents that everyone wants? Because it's kind of translating in real life. That is a massive amount of money for Landon Collins. That is, what? How does that happen? How do you get that much money? Last year's safety, they made a point of this in the tweet. Last year's safety market was horrible. Like, really good safeties. They went on to have good seasons last year. Were like getting signed up until training camp. But then out of nowhere, how much money is Earl Thomas going to get? That's what I'm kind of wondering. I'm glad Philly's not really in the market for a safety right now, because this sets the market at an incredibly high pace. And there's more than just Landon Collins and Earl Thomas. You still got to think of, you got Honey Badger, you got LaMarcus Joyner, Tashawn Gibson, probably going to get a decent contract. Then lower down, you got Clinton Dix. He'll probably get all right. Trey Boston, Adrian Phillips, Adrian Amos. Like, this is not going to be a good year to get a safety. But that, okay, let's just look at the deal itself, because that's ultimately, you know, what I'm not going to be able to give you breaking news on like what the contract details are. But let's look at Landon Collins in Washington. Well, he's an Alabama defender. That makes sense. The connection was already there. And let's be completely honest, if you're making like a short list of teams Landon Collins could go to, you probably would put the Redskins there, as they are looking to revamp their safety. And it didn't look like necessarily they were going to be trending in the direction to re-signing Clinton Dix. So they got a better version of Clinton Dix. And when you look at the rest of their safeties, I mean, they, you know, not a strength of the team. Let's put it that way. Entering this upcoming offseason, you had Jeremy Reeves, who is like a former Eagles like special teamer. You had Monte Nicholson, a 2017 fourth rounder that's been, you know, below average. You have Troy Apke, a fourth rounder last year that was pretty much a combine workout warrior. Can't really speak to his play. I'm going to assume he was predominantly like a special teamer. You had DeShazier Everett, who I think is absolute trash, like one of the worst safeties in the NFL. So they, you know, you're looking at a team that is kind of underrated, I think, when all is said and done, when you look at the Washington Redskins from top to bottom. But definitely, if you had to say the biggest weakness of this team, you would have to say, you know, right along with wide receiver would be the secondary, and more importantly, the safety. So, you know, I get it. And I mean, you know, depending on what the market is going to be, especially maybe with what Earl Thomas is going to command, maybe we'll see what Honey Badger gets, even though I think those deals are obviously not going to be to the extent of 6 years. From a player personnel, from an acquiring talent standpoint, I mean, the Redskins needed safety help, and they went out and got a guy that's in his prime that we saw in 2016 play as good as any defensive player in the National Football League. Now, you know, there's no real reports right now of the official. I'm thinking $14 million. If you're just like breaking it down to that, the rumors right now is $14 million a year, $45 million of that guaranteed. You know, that's an ugly contract, but we're talking about, you know, a couple ugly contracts. Some people may think the Quan Alexander to the San Francisco 49ers was a fairly ugly contract, but that, you know, with the salary cap going up every year, you got the impending lockout that could happen. These guys are going to want to get big time contracts with lots of front loaded guaranteed money. And, I think that's going to be the trend. I think we're going to see a lot of expensive deals. Shout out to, you know, Trent Brown going to the Raiders too. That was a pretty ugly looking contract. And all I can say right now is that we're seeing these contracts go around, starting to feel a little bit better about Malik Jackson on $10 million to the Philadelphia Eagles. If any of you guys were a little bit upset about those figures for acquiring the former Jacksonville Jaguar defensive lineman. But Landon Collins, I mean, he stays within the division. He never had huge games against the Philadelphia Eagles, but, you know, he is a good playmaker, and anytime some good playmakers that potentially could leave the NFC East decide to, you know, double back around and stay within the division, kind of annoying. And I mean, historically speaking, over the last couple of years, they have had some all right development at safeties. I mean, they got a guy like DJ Swearinger, and I would argue he played his best football while he was a member of the Washington Redskins, but, you know, it all sizzled out there eventually, and we saw Clinton Dix come there and be, you know, up and down. So it's not like one of those things that I'm worried really so much, speaking as against a divisional rival, that Landon Collins is going to go to Washington and really take his game to another level, or become that next level, that upper echelon. Because right now he's probably a tier 2 safety and become a tier 1. He's getting paid like a tier 1. They're hoping he become a tier 1, but from that standpoint, I'm not overly worried. But it's just one of those deals, man, where the Redskins are just, I feel like no matter what they do, no matter what moves they make, it's going to be pretty difficult to mask up that quarterback issue. I mean, do they draft a quarterback? Like, they traded for Case Keenum. Like, what is the future for Alex Smith and all that guaranteed money? Like, Alex Smith might just very well retire and just take that huge amount of payday from the Washington Redskins. You're only going to go as far as your QB can go. So right now, I feel like they're just kind of masking over holes by making a big splash right here in Landon Collins from maybe I would say a fan excitement standpoint, because obviously it's going to get the people going. You're stealing a big-time player from a divisional rival. But, you know, is this necessarily going to make the Redskins a contender because they got one of the shiny big objects in free agency? Still think they got a ways to go in that quarterback room and figuring it out. But, hey, whatever, man. Shout out to the Redskins spending big-time money for a player that might be better suited to being like a hybrid linebacker type, which they could. I mean, there was reports on Twitter today that Mason Foster and Zach Brown could potentially on the move. And if they get rid of them, you could look at flexing. And depending on the certain packages, you can look at flexing in Landon Collins as a linebacker. I think that's where he's going to be best suited as a money backer, which is becoming more and more prevalent in today's NFL. I'm not saying he's a slouch in coverage. I mean, he has been able to get turnovers. He has good ball skills, relatively speaking. But, his tackling, his in-the-box playmaking ability is the strength of Landon Collins' game. And it's really going to take a creative DC to utilize him and get the most out of that massive, massive contract. Can Minuski do that? We'll have to wait and see. So what do you guys feel about this Landon Collins deal? I know there's going to be a great back and forth between Redskin and Giant fans, but as an outsider, as an Eagle fan, I will say contract's kind of ugly, which is good for an Eagle fan. Spending all that money when the Redskins, I think, have more pressing issues, even though it was a hole in their team, more pressing issues on solidifying the offensive side of the ball. Feel kind of good about that, but still ultimately kind of annoying that a very, very high level safety is staying within the division when he could have just went elsewhere, could have went to the AFC or something much more ideal for a Philadelphia Eagle fan, because we're still got to see him 2 times a year. So let me know what you guys feel about that in the comment section below, and I'm sure we'll be back when another big free agency signing happens. So until then, make sure you subscribe if it's your first time stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.